All right, welcome into the NFL Roundtable edition here on NoCoastBias.com. Farzin Vasugian here with you. This is the first NFL Roundtable we are doing, so we're hoping to make this video podcast something and just try to keep going as the season goes on. The season's approaching quickly, so we'll get it going. Of course, this is our first tryout, so welcome to the first hang-up that we have for the NFL Roundtable. Joining me is Robert Zaglinski. Robert, how's it going, man?
Pretty good. How are you, man?
Doing good, doing good. Aren't you excited? The first NFL roundtable we're doing for NCB.
Um, the
You
fact that
you
we're
look
doing a
pumped.
roundtable means that. No, I mean that's my normal face, but the fact that we're doing a roundtable means the season's coming up, which is what makes me excited. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're new to NCB or No Coast Bias, check us out on NoCoastBias.com. You got sports, entertainment, news, anything for you. Or it's actually syndicated with Yardbarker and Fox Sports, so check it out. I'm sure there's got to be something for you fans out there that interests you. And of course, if you're watching this, the NFL is surely something that interests you. And we've got a lot of NFL to talk about, so let's just get right into it. The deadline to sign players with the franchise tag was this past week, and a ton of players, well, not a ton, but a few players got new contracts. Let's start with the wide receivers, and I wanted to start with Dez Bryant, but I kind of want to tie in Demaryius Thomas as well because they both got the same exact contracts, a 5-year deal worth $70 million for Dez Bryant and Demaryius Thomas. Just to start off, do you think both receivers are worthy of $70 million?
well, by my estimation, I think Des Bryant at this point is probably the best receiver in the league. I'm not sure how you feel about that. Like complete receiver, he can basically beat any coverage. After the catch, size. Demaryius, though, I mean, Demaryius Thomas, I'm not sold on him. He's a great player. I'm not sure if he's as much of a game breaker as Dez. I think for me, the fact that they're at the same contract speaks to more of collusion, which I saw a conversation of yesterday. That the fact that the two work together, the teams work together, so Dez wouldn't get any money or Thomas wouldn't get any more money. But that's something underhanded. I don't think we can actually see.
See, to me, I feel like Peyton Manning can make any wide receiver or tight end look so good. Julius Thomas, I know he did. He just grew and exploded into one of the best tight ends in the NFL. Man, he was up there with Gronk, and I mean, now that he's moved on, I don't know if he's going to be the same tight end. Demaryius Thomas, he did pretty well with Tim Tebow, but this guy just went to an elite level. So I think Thomas, to me, is a product of Peyton Manning. His success is a product of Peyton Manning because he has him as his quarterback. So I don't know if it's – I mean, to say that if they're both getting the same identical contract, then to me they have to be identical receivers. And to me, Bryant and Thomas are far from identical. As you said, Bryant's the best wide receiver in the NFL. I would agree with you. I think a lot of people would make a debate for Calvin Johnson as well, but Bryant's been the most dominant guy. And to look at his rookie contract, he was making a little over $1 million his first couple of years, but then he went to $2 million, and then this past year made $3.1 million. So he was definitely due for a big mega contract. It was tough for Dallas because they wanted to keep DeMarco Murray as well, but I guess for Dallas' standards, they said to themselves, hey, look, Dez Bryant's got to be priority number one. DeMarco Murray, hey, look, we can get another running back, but we cannot get another Dez Bryant.
Yeah, a running back I don't think is as valuable in this day and age. I think they value I think DeMarco Murray, if we're going to touch on that a little later, was more of a product of his offensive line. With Dez earning his money, it was more of the maturity issues. Everyone knew how good he was. Everyone knew how good he could be, that he could be the best receiver in the league. But they didn't. You were mentioning all those cap earnings or all those general salary earnings. He didn't warrant much because they weren't sure if they could trust him. I mean, wasn't there? I believe there were like rumblings of some kind of video that Adam Schefter and all those insiders were talking about
Oh, yeah.
that was going to be released, like Ray Rice. Like. How could you warrant paying a guy like $15 million? But that never surfaced, and he's finally earned it. But yeah, I agree with you. I think Demaryius Thomas is more of a product of Peyton Manning, but then we're getting to that age-old football question: is it the receiver that makes the quarterback look good, or the quarterback makes the receiver look good? Because then we can go through multiple examples of that. I mean, Pierre Garcon, for example, he's still a good player in Washington, not as good as he was with Peyton, but still a high-level guy.
Let's quickly move on to the Broncos. I mean, we've obviously compared to the two. If you're a Denver fan, the standard is not winning the AFC West or making the playoffs. I mean, look, you are Denver. You have arguably the best quarterback that's ever played in the regular season, at least. But when it comes to postseason time, yeah, the regular season king, exactly. But come postseason time, Peyton Manning, and this goes back to his Indianapolis days, he kind of has a history of early exits, and Demaryius Thomas being the second highest paid player on the Broncos, you just want to hope that this is going to carry the Broncos to another level. There's no question the Broncos have a high-powered offense. You just want to make sure that this is going to pay off in the long run, too.
See, I don't think it will. I think it's more of a just locking up Thomas long term. They feel like they're Super Bowl level, but I mean, seeing the way Peyton faltered down the stretch last year sort of makes me think that it's a decline. I mean, he doesn't have the same arm strength anymore. He has to carry more of the offense. You can sit on more of the routes he's designing, because he just can't make all the throws as he used to. To maximize that roster, they'd have to add somebody. So locking up Thomas long term isn't going to change anything. I don't look at them as a Super Bowl contender. I mean, maybe because the AFC is a little weak, but I don't see it. And I don't see this deal changing that.
Let's move on to Kansas City, as Justin Houston got one of the richest contracts a defensive player ever got. It's actually, as a matter of fact, it's the richest contract a linebacker has ever received in NFL history, a 6-year deal worth $101 million. I just want to give you a couple numbers before we go on. Justin Houston was busted for possession of marijuana at the Combine, so he fell to the third round. In 2011, he had a cap number of $542,000, and these are approximate numbers. I'm not going to read the exact digits here. 2012, $657,000. He made his first Pro Bowl that year. 2013, when the Chiefs had that monstrous defense that just began to rise, $747,000, and then this past year, $1.6 million, and he had 22 sacks that season. Now, he's going to start off with $5 million, and Joel Corey, the cap expert for CBS, I just lost a tweet that I had it on here, but he was reading all the numbers. I just pulled it up right here. His first year, Houston's going to make $5.1 million. Second year, $19.1 million, and it just goes on to either $19 million or $20 million, approximately. And then his last year is going to get $17.5 million. So Justin Houston definitely cashed in big. And for the Chiefs, this has to pay out, because this guy is a ferocious pass rusher, and quarterbacks have had a hard time stopping him, or offensive tackles, I should say.
Well, two things. One, I can see the Larry Johnson jersey in the background. So, as a Chiefs fan, for you, do you think it's worth it? Do you think he's on level with, say, JJ? Well, I mean, he's not JJ Watt, but do you think he's on level, sort of, with JJ Watt, Robert Quinn, those kinds of guys? Do you think he's warranted?
Let me say this. As a Chiefs fan, it is kind of scary, because the Chiefs gave Larry Johnson the richest contract for a running back. They give Eric Berry the richest contract for a safety, and Eric Berry's been kind of up and down. Obviously, the past year for him has been just a rock bottom for him because of his health and everything. Yeah. But the Chiefs, I mean, they like to pay guys and make them the richest ever at their position, so it is kind of nerve-wracking. But, hey, look, the guy had 22 sacks. It's not like he just had a really bad season. I mean, the Chiefs paid Dwayne Bowe a bunch of money when he did nothing a couple of years ago. I think this is a good move for Kansas City. They need a ferocious pass rusher for a long time, and they've got him for at least 6 years by this contract standards.
Yeah, and I think it sets up well for Kansas City, at least divisionally wise too. I mean, they arguably, other than Denver, probably have, or not even in the AFC, have one of the most talented rosters. Well, one of the most talented rosters, and locking up Houston, probably your franchise player, probably your best player by my estimation at this point, at least of last season's performance. I mean, helps them out. I mean, if you're happy about it as a Chiefs fan, then what does that say in general?
Yeah, and look, I've covered the team for a while. The Chiefs haven't had a dominant pass rusher as an individual since Jared Allen, and the Chiefs missed out on that when they traded him away. Sure, it paid off because they got Jamal Charles in the trade when they got a bunch of draft picks. But here's my thing. I think pass rushers, and I mean, as NFL fans, as young kids, I mean, you don't know the game as well, but when you gain more knowledge, you understand just how valuable pass rushers are. I mean, they can be game changers, and the Chiefs have two premier pass rushers, and Tamba Hali and Justin Houston, and they've got Dontari Poe in the middle. I mean, this is a defense that can really do a lot of damage. One quick fact: they were the only team to not allow 30 points in a game this past season. So the Chiefs were never blown out in any game. They had a couple bad games, but never a blowout by all means. I just think the Chiefs cashed in big with this one.
Yeah, obviously issues aren't defensively. I think it's a conversation for another time about no receiver catching a touchdown pass last year, I believe, over a stretch. But I don't think the Chiefs will have any defensive issues. Maybe secondary, but you've certainly locked up. Like, as I mentioned earlier, he's Robert Quinn. He's J.J. Watt. He's one of the three best pass rushers in the league. There's no way you can't pay that guy that kind of money.
Yeah.
Ultimate bet on myself contract. Ultimate.
I mentioned the cap earnings he got his first 4 years, and the reason I felt like this was taking so long is maybe Justin Houston and his agent Joel Siegel were trying to ask for more of a front load, which is not common. I mean, usually the longer you play, the more money you make as time goes on. But because he made so little, I guess the case was, hey, look, I just had 22 sacks and I got $1.6 million. But that's kind of an interesting point. These three deals, they were all made right before the deadline, just a couple hours before the deadline. Why does it take that long? That's something I've never been able to point my finger on. I guess now that the deadline's approaching, everyone's saying, hey, look, let's set egos aside. Forget about not playing for 10 weeks. That's just stupid. We're making millions of dollars at the end of the day. Let's just sign the deal. I just don't know why it has to happen right before the deadline.
Yeah, and I think you have to look at it from the team perspective, too. I mean, the players, both sides will set aside something because of the pressure of the deadline, but it's also pressure for the team. I mean, they want their best players in camp. They want their best players, being ready for the season. How many cases have we seen of a player missing training camp? Which isn't the most important thing, admittedly, but then that player has a lot of health issues during the season. So the team, for their own success-wise, I feel like they maybe give in a little bit to the demands of these players.
Yeah, and well, like I said, I as someone who covers the Chiefs and as a fan as well, I was monitoring the Justin Houston situation closely, and throughout the season, I just heard no progress made, no discussions are happening, not even close. And all of a sudden, here's the deadline, and they get it all done. One player who was due for a new deal, but he kind of screwed himself at the end of the day, is Jason Pierre-Paul. And look, I want to be nice about this, I guess.
You don't have to be nice. Don't be nice. He was stupid. But go on.
Well, here's the thing. I don't remember the player's name, but I remember a Lakers player several years ago was snowboarding, and the Lakers were frustrated about that because in his contract it says, hey, look, and not just his, all the NBA players, it says, look, you cannot engage in these kinds of activities that could put your physical health in jeopardy. And I don't know exactly what these NFL contracts have. That's for lawyers and agents to figure out and general managers. But somewhere in there, it has to say, hey, look, don't do something that's going to put your body in harm. And obviously, Jason Pierre-Paul did that. This is just an example to anyone who wants to play in the NFL or anyone who wants to cash in big one day. Don't do things that are going to cost you a mega contract, because he was just a week or a week and a half away.
See, I don't know how specific a contract can be to don't buy a U-Haul truck full of fireworks and blow off parts of your hand. But there were reports that he wasn't that happy with the Giants anyway, so I'm not sure if it negatively affects him in general, because another team would give him a. There were reports of a collusion here too, that he might have done it on purpose, or not maybe not blow off his hand on purpose, but gotten injured so that the Giants wouldn't want to commit the franchise tender to him and that he'd be a free agent. Now, that's a really reaching conspiracy theory, but the fact that he didn't really want to sign with the Giants in the first place speaks something to me. He's even with I believe he amputated his finger.
Yeah.
No, he amputated his finger. Another team will still find value in him if the Giants don't want to sign him. If the Giants don't want to bring him back for any reason, another team will still pay for a defensive end that has 9 fingers that has proven to be, I mean, not exactly a dominant pass rusher based off of consistency, but he's still a pretty good player, so someone will pay up for him.
Yeah, I mean, the Giants, as inconsistent as New York has been, they've been part of a couple championships, and JPP has contributed to that in a pretty big manner. I don't know. This is just the weirdest story. I don't think I've seen a story this bizarre since Manti Te'o.
Well, there was another
NFL player.
There was another player in the Bucs, T.J. Wilson, I think a DB. Yeah. He also blew out. He also fireworks. I mean, these guys. Come on, 4th of July. You gotta watch those explosives. You know.
I don't even remember what I was gonna say. I do. Adam Schefter. I don't want to get too off topic, but I think this is a good discussion to have. The reports he had where he tweeted the medical reports. I mean, he put a picture out there on Twitter, and it had JPP, like, very specific personal information about basically his health. He's Adam Schefter. If Adam Schefter or Ian Rappaport or Jay Glazer, if any of them say something, no one's going to question it. Sure, they will be wrong a couple of times. There's no reporter out there, even Adrian Wojnarowski for the NBA. I mean, he's wrong from time to time. But 99.8% of the time, you're Adam Schefter. I don't think you really needed to put that out there. And he claims in an interview that the information was given to him. He never asked for it. I don't know if it was necessary to really point that out there.
Are you getting into a question of his ethics of the obtaining of his information? Because that's
Well, not necessarily obtaining it because he says it was given to him, but just sharing it. Because I don't think the public needs to know that, and JPP certainly doesn't want it out there.
Well, I think his job, and whatever sport you're reporting, I think his job is to report on the news. And if a prominent NFL player in a huge market injures himself, even if I think it's sort of his obligation not to keep that private. I mean, what if you're a Giants fan and you're looking for Jason Pierre-Paul? Jason Pierre-Paul to come back. These guys, their lives aren't private. I mean, maybe like the settlings of a divorce or something, but something that has to do with your actual play on the field potentially. It's all off limits, and especially if the information was already there. I mean, I have no qualms with Adam Schefter or anybody or any insider sharing that kind of information. It's part of the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough when you're under a telescope like that, when a lot of people are watching. I mean, that's just something you've got to deal with. So I can get where you're coming from. I'm going to move on real quickly. One tidbit of news that did come out today: Dan Connolly, offensive lineman for the Patriots, is retiring, but forget about his blocking, because let's face it, that's not what he was known for. He is very well known for that kick return he had on Sunday Night Football, almost scoring a touchdown. I think it was 72 yards, if I'm not mistaken. It was a squib kick, and I don't remember which team it was, but it was a squib kick. He takes it.
Packers.
Oh, it was the Packers. That's right.
Matt Flynn started, Matt Flynn. Okay, but continue.
And the thing that's so nice is on Sunday Night Football, we see, I don't know what it is about Sunday Night Football specifically, we tend to see a lot of spectacular moments there, such as the catch from Odell Beckham Jr., but one of the more memorable moments on Sunday night, at least in recent memory, was that kick return from Dan Connolly. Let's face it, that's how he's going to be remembered going out.
Well, as a Bears fan and my team not really going to be able to embarrass the Packers, I also finally remember that play. So, Dan Connolly, thank you. Especially it's impressive. It's impressive the feats that these linemen. I mean, he's probably was 6'4", I believe, 300 pounds. The fact that he was able to get the he probably runs faster than we do. So let's be honest. So It was an impressive athletic feat in itself. No, you have to appreciate it when a guy when something unexpected like happens like that. You're touching on it. Sunday Night Football, I think, has become more of the marquee night matchup too. So it's not surprising to see these great moments like the Odell Beckham catch, for example, like you mentioned. Maybe like, or even the Devin Hester return 9 years ago.
Yeah. Farzin Vasugan and Robert Ziglenski here with you on the NFL Roundtable Edition for No Coast Bias. Robert, what do you usually cover on NCB?
Well, I'm a big Chicago sports guy, so I normally talk Bears, Blackhawks recently with their Stanley Cup win, little Bulls and Derrick Rose, even though they break my heart more than normal. So I'm all around. These are my teams, and these it's my passions.
Yeah, there you go. Check them out. Do you do any NFL league-wide stuff as well?
Yeah, look for my division previews and Super Bowl pick coming up on NCB.
Okay, there you go. And I'll be doing some NFL stuff as well, and also Kansas City sports, as well as some entertainment stuff. Big Brother, Survivor, The Walking Dead. Are you a big Walking Dead fan? Because they just released the trailer recently, and I'm pretty pumped for season 6.
I haven't been as invested as like the people around me, but I could see the appeal. I'm the kind of guy that'll like read the wiki. Like I won't catch up on the episodes if I'm not that interested in the show. But I can see why it's compelling. Yeah, and the trailers got me excited. I'll watch the premiere and then we'll go from there.
You know, we did talk about Sunday Night Football. The Walking Dead did beat the Sunday Night Football a couple times last year in rating. Oh yeah.
Sunday Night Football, I believe, is the highest rated show on television. So, for 1 week or in general?
It was 3 consecutive weeks. The Walking.
Wow.
Here's the thing. Backstory: Season 4 ended on a gigantic cliffhanger. So when Season 5 started, the first episode I think had 33 million viewers. So I think a lot of people really wanted to see. Hey, look, and as someone who watches both Sunday Night Football and The Walking Dead. The Walking Dead tends to start right when Sunday Night Football goes to halftime or it's near the end of the second half. So I don't think people mind missing a little bit of football and then coming back after the show's over. But yeah, I'm pretty pumped. So be sure you check out the Walking Dead Season 6 preview, which I'll have on NCB. But last topic we're going to have here before we sign off, Tom Brady. And we could go in a million directions with this topic. First off, let's take it one by one. First off, the suspension from the Ted Wells report is based on whether or not Brady knew about the deflated footballs, and Ted Wells basically said, hey, Brady probably knew about the footballs being deflated, so, hey, look, you probably knew about it, so we're going to give you a 4-game suspension and basically hand the Patriots $1 million fine and take away draft picks. And look, I'm a Patriots hater as well, next to the next person.
Come on.
But look, here's the thing: you've got to be fair at some point.
Yeah.
Where does it lie that look, he did this, and if he did cheat, okay, I mean, sure, suspend him, but the NFL is going off no evidence right now.
Mm-hmm. I think it's more of a PR thing. They don't have anything, but there's such an outcry for it, and they already have all the negative publicity from the earlier domestic violence scandals. Ray Rice, I can't. It's on the top of my head. Adrian Peterson. Yeah. So something comes up with their most high-profile team. I'm pretty sure you'll agree the Patriots are probably the NFL's most high-profile team at the moment. They have to make a move. Maybe it's not fair in light of having equal suspension as someone like Greg Hardy, which I'm sure you're going to move on in a second too. But Roger Goodell and the company realize that they're under fire. I don't necessarily agree with it. I'm not a Patriots hater. I think it's more of a slap in the wrist because nobody will appreciate that a team's consistent success that's sort of, in a sense, dominating the league with the sort of culture they've created. So fans will outcry for that, and the NFL's responding reaction response is reactionary, but what are you going to do?
And Greg Hardy. So let's go ahead and jump into that real quickly. He had a 10-game suspension that got reduced to 4 games, and I do have a problem with the NFLPA because, and I understand what the NFLPA is about. They have to, I mean, they're going to have the players' backs no matter what, but I feel like at some points you've got to lay off if someone did something. But because the NFLPA got involved, and I don't know the details of all this, how it got down, but now Greg Hardy and Tom Brady have the same amount of suspensions, a 4-game suspension. Now, granted, Tom Brady's trying to rectify this as well as the NFLPA, but as it stands right now, both players have a 4-game suspension, one for deflating freaking footballs, the other one, domestic violence. How does the NFL even justify that those two activities require the same punishment? Because certainly that can't be the case.
I think, again, it boils down to that there's not enough of a public outcry for the more serious offense. People will put up this moral standing that they care so much about these players being acceptable citizens that treat their family members and those around them correctly. But in the end, you're watching football and like, oh, it really ruffles you up that Tom Brady he knew about some football, so there's more outcry over that. I'm not sure if you'll agree, but there's more. It seems to me that there's more outcry over the deflated footballs than someone actually beating your woman. And in essence, the NFL won't change that.
But see, if it was Tom Brady, I mean, let's do a role reversal. If it was Tom Brady with the domestic violence and Greg Hardy somehow involved in deflating a football or whatnot, I mean, there would be a huge outcry because he's Tom Brady, and Greg Hardy, with all due respect to what he does on the field, I mean, he's not the 4-time married to a model Super Bowl champion. So I think that kind of plays a factor into it. I don't know.
More high-profile guys, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that could be it right there. Last thing on the Brady subject, though. I mean, it's mid-July, and the Pro Football Hall of Fame is coming up. Preseason games, regular season games are coming up, training camp. The NFL needs to get to the conclusion of this because let me just put it this way. Those 4 suspensions the NFL handed out in one day, the NFL did a great job of stealing whatever it was, Major League Baseball, the NBA, the NHL, the draft, whatever it was. The NFL was talked about that day because of those 4 suspensions. The 3 new signings that happened right before the deadline, which we already discussed,
yeah,
the NFL dominated subjects that day, even though it was All-Star festivities week for baseball. Tom Brady, look, you have control of the media here. Don't overshadow the Pro Football Hall of Fame or training camp. I know, and look, I know Dwayne Bowe is not a 4-time Super Bowl champion, but last year, as someone who covers the Chiefs, Dwayne Bowe's suspension came really late. As a matter of fact, it was announced during training camp for something he did back in November of 2013, which was speeding in possession of marijuana. I don't know why the NFL takes so long for some of these activities, but the last thing, if I'm the NFL, the last thing I want is for people to talk about Tom Brady rather than the players, the former players who are about to get enshrined to the Pro Football Hall of Fame or positional battles at camp or just games coming up.
Well, you're making that plea assuming the NFL is self-aware. And just to refresh your memory again, the Ray Rice and Adrian Peterson scandals came around within the first few weeks of the opening season, completely overshadowing that. I mean, I remember all NFL coverage I would see on TV or on websites. I mean, there was no talk of the games. It was all Ray Rice, Adrian Peterson, all negative PR. So you're making the assumption that NFL is self-aware to avoid that situation again.
Yeah, I mean, the NFL has control of this. I mean, look.
But I don't think they. I think this drones on longer. Is my point. See what they've done in the past.
Unfortunately, it's going to because there's all this talk about how the NFLPA and Tom Brady are going to take this to court and they're going to get the justice. I don't know what it is with the NFL in general. I mean, a lot. Again, as someone who covers the Chiefs, we're still waiting on the announcement of a cornerback who might be facing a suspension because of a DUI from over a year ago. So the NFL takes a really, really long time to figure things out, and that's my issue, is why does it take so long? I remember back then, it used to take a short amount of time to say, hey, look, this is the evidence, this is what we have, let's go ahead and nab this guy with a suspension, a 2-game, 4-game suspension. Now it's a process where it takes half a year, maybe even more than a year.
Well, you're going through all those legal teams. You're going through the Players Association. All these court hearings are moved further and further, and there's no urgency. We can't, if we're not in on the process. We can criticize how long it takes, but we don't know what's going on enough to speculate that why these are drawn out. Maybe the players are defended better. I don't know, but it's an unfortunate situation to say the least. Because in August, when people should be getting excited for the season, when the league should have good publicity and everybody has hope, and all these Browns fans are getting excited for the season, even though it's going to end in terrific flame. You know, there'll be talk of Tom Brady and his suspension instead of the new hope.
See, I remember when this all started, when the report came out the night of, and then people woke up Monday morning hearing about this. I remember, and I was with 610 Sports Radio at the time, and I was co-hosting an evening shift with someone, and the host and I went back and forth, and he says, hey, look, we've got 13 days before the Super Bowl. Surely the NFL will figure it out. And I said, there is no way. I mean, the NFL, they just take forever for these kinds of things. I mean, sure, look, you can find out a lot within 13 days, but look, you obviously saw how long it took for them to give out the suspensions, the draft picks, and the fines. But unfortunately, I'd love to sit here and say that the NFL is going to have this all figured out before training camp and the Hall of Fame, but it's just not. And I think this whole Tom Brady saga, which he didn't do anything according to the evidence that we have, which is nothing. This is all going. I mean, we're basically talking about something that we don't even know if it happened to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
That's where my issue is.
There's the problem. There's the rub. That's. I think it accentuates the situation with the NFL trying to defend its suspension, because, as I said earlier, the suspension was more reactionary because of the public outcry than him actually doing something. So that may be the issue where it's extended as well. I mean, the NFL is trying to defend themselves to the PA and to Brady's team, his legal team, that is, and they're just trying to extend it to make themselves, I don't know, paint themselves in a better light. I'm reaching here, because I can't even speak to what's happening.
Yeah, and look, I mean, there was that talk about how the NFLPA and Brady will take it to court, and like I said, we're talking about a subject that we don't even know if it happened, and if it did, we have such very few things to go off right now. So, I mean, it's definitely going to be something. Look, the 4-game suspension, obviously he wants to appeal it, and being in mid-July with the regular season coming up, look, time goes fast, and next thing you know, we're in September playing football games, so the NFL's got to figure out quickly. We'll see where things go from there. Yeah. Farzin Vasugian, Robert Zaglinski here. You can find my stuff covering sports and reality TV, Big Brother, Survivor, and entertainment, The Walking Dead, on NCB, NoCoastBias.com. Robert, remind everyone again, what do you have going on, and how can they find your work?
You can find everything I contribute and write about on No Coast Bias. I'll have NFL division previews and a Super Bowl pick, fun, coming up. And a little NHL recaps, which is a different story. But that'll all be on NCB as well. And follow me on Twitter at Zigzags82.
Does your NFL prediction include if players will be using deflated footballs?
Well, if I have the Packers winning the Super Bowl, so if they use deflated footballs and get all this negative outcry, that'd be great for me as a Bears fan. So maybe I'll include it.
All right. Check him out, and you guys can follow me on Twitter at Farzin21, and then also be sure you do follow No Coast Bias on Twitter, and also like the No Coast Bias Facebook page as well. All right, Farzin Vasugian, Robert Zaglinski here for the NFL Roundtable edition on No Coast Bias. Check us out next week. We'll be back for more NFL talk as we get closer to training camp. Until then, take care.